Welcome to Orange County Power Players, where we spotlight the personal, professional, and financial success stories of OC's top leaders. Here's your host, Danny Flores.
Welcome back to OC Power Players, where I interview some of the most successful people in Orange County. I'm Danny Flores, your host, and today's honored guest is Nathan Villa from Huntington Beach. Nathan has over 2 decades of experience in banking, from commercial investments and also cash management in Southern California markets. He has worked with smaller community-based banks and credit unions to larger entities such as Bank of America. Currently, he works for a commercial bank that works exclusively with small to medium-sized businesses in Southern California. He has the ability to interface with all key upper management for decisions and the resources to help virtually any business owner in Orange County. He is extremely broker friendly and can pay healthy rebates on submissions. Nathan has multifaceted knowledge of commercial and investment banking, wholesale lending, SBA, owner-occupied commercial real estate, escrow trust account banking, deposit analysis, and sales mentoring. He plans to further his reach into California's abundant and vast SBA market, along with his experience with all forms of conventional commercial, finance, treasury management, and broker relations. Welcome, Nathan.
Thank you. And then Danny, on show, we want to probably talk about broker referrals. That's something that we're not actively doing right now, and that's something that definitely has to get taken out.
Okay, no worries. We'll take it out.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started in banking, and I know you've been in it for a long time. So how did
I started at Ventura County Credit Union in Camarillo, California. My dad was a chief appraising officer for a collection of credit unions and got me my first banking job. Started off as a teller, went into member new account services, and then I got accepted to go to Cal State Fullerton. So I left Ventura County and came into Orange County right in 2000, and got into Bank of America while I was working. I was interning in their private banking side, and once I finally graduated, was able to kind of get a job right away through Bank of America. They helped me pay for my tuition. I moved over to Northern Trust, and then really felt that my calling was working with small businesses and, trying to become some sort of commercial banking relationship manager. And Pacific Premier Bank gave me that shot, taught me SBA, taught me the business that I'm doing right now, what we're going to probably talk about in detail on this call. That's the initial part of my journey, but I've also started SBA lending groups for other banks. And now here in my 6th year at California Bank and Trust, which is a division of Zions Bank Corporation, I'm regarded as a subject matter expert for SBA lending. And that's really the strongest card that I have here, is my ability to articulate a borrower's needs for growing this permanent working capital, to grow the business, to acquire another business, to buy a partner out, to replace their rent and buy a building. These are all great transactions, and my reach isn't just in Southern California. It actually goes through the entire state of California. Last year, I did a large $7.5 million business acquisition for a legacy business that had been around for north of 50 years in San Francisco. They're a marine construction company, and we basically put 2 owners in there, brand new operators that'll ensure the continuity of that business itself.
That must be very exciting to be able to first go in, as a banker. I know before you lend to a business, you have to understand the business. So you get in there, meet the owners. you kind of hear their story of how they got started, how they built
Yeah.
their business. I mean, that's like
Mhm.
super exciting in the banking world, right? Especially because you're dealing with
It
small
is.
business.
Yeah, the you're absolutely right, Danny. The KYC, knowing your customer, knowing their origins, knowing their org chart, knowing their succession plan, having a good pulse for what their growth and their goals may potentially be. But also, a big part of our job is taking on an advisory role of helping them, saying that, hey, I noticed that you're leasing a lot of equipment. We may want to put together other facilities that can help you do this timely. And there's a lot of different options, but going back to your point, it is very, very exciting, and I think that's probably a key difference with our bank as opposed to some of our peers, is that you really grow with this bank, and I learned that very early on, and that was one of the I would say key parts of me joining this team, was the ability to just grow and not feel like you're just transactional.
Right. Right. Yes, because businesses start at a certain point and then they need
Yeah.
more, like you said,
Yeah.
facilities or credit
Hmm.
lines or letters of credit, or whichever way. As they grow, the needs grow with them, and you can be their one-stop shop to provide them everything that they may need as they grow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said.
Now you talked about SBA lending, and I don't
Hmm.
know if everybody who's listening knows exactly what that is. Can you
Sure.
explain that?
Absolutely. So that is SBA. The acronym is Small Business Administration. And what that allows is for lenders like us to participate in that program and give businesses who may not qualify for traditional bank financing. And that could be a whole myriad of reasons. It could be that they don't have 2 or 3 years of taxable revenue and performance yet. It may be that the working capital that they need will make them quote unquote bankable. And so what the US government does is they insure 75 cents on every dollar that's borrowed. And they really incentivize, banks like us to participate in this program and ultimately help grow business. And we do that both from a real estate and non-real estate capacity. And, this bank is very, very good at owner occupied real estate. So when a borrower wants to replace their rent, if it makes sense and, it cash flows, we're very competitive on that. And then what we're seeing right now, currently, is we've got a lot of baby boomers who are exiting the workforce. They've built substantial businesses just in our backyard in Orange County and San Diego County. I do a lot of business in the Inland Empire and the Coachella Valley. They're just across the board. They want to do a few things. They want to either make sure that the success of their business is passed on to their key employees, or that somebody else, whether they're coming from the outside, is going to keep their staff together and they're not going to just scrap them. That's what SBA and that's what this bank, that's been the lion's share. And I would say my primary focus on growing business here for this bank and being a resource to small businesses in our community. That is what I do.
So is a business, depending on what stage of the business they're in, can they have an alternative, whether they go SBA or they go with a bank loan and any type of these transactions?
It depends. Yeah, it'll all kind of be case by case. We always want to look and see. Generally, we want to see 2 taxable years of performance for it to be a non-SBA deal. But in the event that they've just started, maybe they formed in 2024 and they've got just about a year's worth of performance and it's trending upwards, but they need more capital, maybe they need more equipment, maybe they need to hire more staff. It all depends on the industry. Those are great opportunities for SBA loans to tell that story. And so oftentimes we find ourselves going off of projections. So we'll put together 24 months of projections, and we'll work with the borrower to articulate detailed written assumptions. So that way, the numbers make sense, because a lot of businesses, they have some seasonality, and it goes right back to knowing the business, knowing, what are the upswings and the downswings, but ultimately, how is this new capital going to ultimately benefit the business to become eventually an asset to help them grow versus just a nagging liability? So that's my job on a day-to-day basis.
And what are the difference in terms between going, maybe you're big enough to have a choice, and,
Right.
and whether going with a bank loan or SBA, what's the biggest difference for the borrower?
Well, it's going to be, if it's real estate, it's going to be how much down are they going to have to put down. So, generally with SBA, you can go up to 90% financing. Whereas on owner occupied transactions, a bank's generally going to want a minimum of 20% down. And not all businesses, it all just depends on the liquidity position of the business. And that also goes back to understanding the business's true cash cycle. So it's just like, yeah, they may have 20 or 25% in the bank, but they really need, half of that for their 90-day cycles in between ARs, so that's we will always tread against a line which what we would define as credit elsewhere. So if they have the ability to go conventional, then they're not going to get an SBA loan. We need to be able to articulate why the SBA is the best possible option for them, so we don't show what we would call a preference issue per se. And the easiest thing to do is just to get on a call, send out a needs list, look and analyze all the financials, and make the determination with the client concurrently, like, hey, yeah, I think this is going to have to be an SBA loan for all these reasons, and here are the next steps. Or, hey, you're really strong, you're cash heavy, we'll give you a sweetheart deal on a conventional purchase or a traditional bank loan, and here are the various options. So, it's we are very cut and sew, tailor made, and that's what I really like about this bank, because they're very large, but they still have a pulse on realizing that every business has unique and individual needs. I would liken it to like a fingerprint. There's no two alike. There may be some similarities, but there's going to be little quirks in every business that, it's not a one size fits all shop.
So now that's really neat to know that you're kind of almost like a personal banker to a business.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Like you mentioned, a small to medium-sized business, they're all 100% different. The way they operate, the products they provide, their ARs, everything functions differently. Now, do you, you mentioned, potentially about the real estate that they're potentially leasing or working in. Does SBA do, loans for real estate acquisitions, such as rentals, that somebody may have a real estate business and does acquisitions, or does it not do that?
So that would probably tread the line of being passive. So it's got to be an owner occupied entity. So SBA funds would never be appropriated to be used for income producing properties. It would, yeah. We have worked with realtors before. We've worked with people that build and manufacture, tiny homes, but, we are financing the buildings that they have their operations housed in. We're not giving them capital to, go and turn around and sell, or go and lease out and then collect rental income for that. That would be ineligible for an SBA loan.
Okay. No, that's interesting. So then tell us a little bit about maybe like a success story of, because you've been in the banking business so long, say maybe a business that came to you, they're in the beginning stages, or they haven't been been in business for many years, and they start, and then all of a sudden, because you're there, you're able to help them, you have the products that they need, and you're able to help them grow, and now they're a big business.
Sure. We had a metal plating business. that was starting to take on pretty large contracts. And they had always been relatively successful, but the ownership was starting to kind of wind down. So the kids were working within the company and they had large growth plans, but they were going to need SBA financing in order to get there. So we transitioned them. And they actually were able to successfully buy their parents out and take over ownership, and run the operations. And then there was another opportunity to buy a vendor. So they were going to be able to control their costs when they were able to have access to the materials. They were using a vendor to buy precious metals, and they ended up buying this precious metals vendor outright. So now their margins are even higher now, to the point to where they don't need SBA financing. They're going through our traditional, what we call CNI, which is commercial and investment. So the traditional big commercial bank credit facilities, they're growing. They're a juggernaut. I can't say who they are, but they are, that is a success story that transpired over maybe 2 or 3 years. I mean, it was aggressive growth. And Danny, they didn't just hit their projections, they knocked it out of the water. They were very and that's why, we offer a lot of financial advice. We look at these projections. We want to make sure that they're not telling some sort of science fiction story. Like, we want them to be relatively conservative in nature, because we don't want, we want these goals to be achievable. They should be in the middle of the gauge, not on the high end and the high swing. They did exactly that. And yeah, I'm really so proud of them.
So now, okay, so tell us a little bit, because that's a really cool story, right? That's a success story from growing and just growing exponentially. But what did the parents have that were able to build the business? And what did the children bring?
It was a legacy business with tons of contracts, heavily weighted in defense and aerospace. And the kids were able to secure more contracts like that, but more importantly, diversify the overall portfolio so they didn't have concentration risk. And then they also found the opportunity that I had just discussed, which is we can buy one of our vendors out and control one of our largest costs. And that's going to just boost. So, there are also peers and competitors in the market, but what gave them an advantage was how they can price out some of these jobs because of the margins that they already have internally by acquiring that other business. It is the exponential factor is something that I'm just kind of saying lightly. I'm kind of understating. But I'm very happy about that one. And then I have a lot of, there's a lot of businesses, I feel like being a banker, and you're a former banker too as well, you will have an emotional connection with these business owners. I mean, it's what drives me every day to work as hard as I do. Obviously to provide for my family, but I'm indirectly providing for other people's families, which are ultimately my clients,
Yeah, no, that is true because like you said, I was a banker before too.
Yeah.
And it just as you're getting to know your customers, right? A lot of them have these stories. I remember there was one when I was in the industry. It was 4 partners, and they had started out, and they said for the first 6 months they used to work in the housing industry, and they would live in these houses that they were renovating, but they moved room to room because that's the only place they had to stay, and they were sleeping in sleeping bags as they renovated the houses. They were eating peanut butter jelly sandwiches. Wow. And that's what they did for the first 6 months, because that's all they could afford. But then they grew, and then they needed I remember at that time they needed a $10 million credit facility, and by the time I got out of the banking industry, they were in the $30 million credit facility. Wow. Yeah. And I kind of see them from time to time, and it's just like what they've done is just phenomenal.
That's awesome.
From nothing and eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to just being on top of the world in a sense.
Yeah, it's that manifestation, I think, that is what kind of keeps us all going, because we all have these stories, whether they're big or small. They all start small, but it's like kind of that age-old quote that faith and fear are both required to believe in something that you can't actually see, but it's your choice to kind of delve into whether you want to be fearful or if you want to have faith.
Well, here and the other way is you can live in fear both ways, with something or without something. That simple, right?
yeah.
You get to choose which fear you want. It ain't easy either way, right? It's just which path you're choosing. And as an entrepreneur, you have to build your team, and you are part of many businesses teams in being the banker, being right there in your part. And it's something that's so crucial for people who are in business. You have to have the liquidity requirements. You have to have your credit line in place. You have to have money ready for acquisitions or for materials or for whatever it is. It's never ending. Making sure that you don't have that cash crunch. Right. Kind of staying ahead of the game, right? And then you guys are advisory, so you can give them advice on products that they didn't know that existed, or just different ways that you can help the businesses grow. And so it's very impressive, and you've been in it such a long time. I'm sure you have a wealth of information just to help these businesses.
A lot of experience. I mean, it's just like anything. The more reps you can get, some people learn fast, some people learn over time, but the one thing that we can always do is learn from our mistakes. And I think adversity is ultimately what helps us grow. And we've had quite a bit. I started at this bank 2 months before the pandemic. So I had no idea what to expect, right? I ended up having a killer breakout year for this, for this bank. And I wanted the second year not to be an anomaly. I wanted to double down on it. And my 6th year, and, I've been our top performer every year, but that's just because, you have goals, you have drive, you have clients, you wear that responsibility every day. You're organized, you're detailed, you're able to articulate externally and internally. These are, I went to school for communications. Never did I ever think I was going to be a banker, but I think that having that communications background, that's overall really been one of my strongest cards, because that is the secret sauce, is how do you communicate internally to get, to, for one, protect the bank, but then 2, give the business what they need to grow, and then externally explain to them, because a lot of what we will do will be some sort of compromise, in certain situations. But it's also articulating and understanding that what they came and knocked on your door for, and they're ultimately getting, what they need. And that's just part of the game here. It's being a constant communicator, always providing updates. I think that's why I've been fortunate with all the opportunities that I've had, is that the people that send me deals externally, they know that they can call Nathan at any time. He's going to pick up his phone, or he's going to message them and give them real-time updates. And because, I hear from other banks, and everyone has different situations, but it may be a few days, maybe a few weeks. And, that's scary for a business owner waiting on the sidelines for something like that.
Well, yeah. Everything's time sensitive when it comes to money. Yeah. So no, that is awesome. Now, so as we wind down the interview, what exciting plans do you have for the next 6 to 12 months, 2026?
Well, I think that for the bank, I really want to push and see how far I can go with larger acquisitions. I think I've positioned myself to do that. And so I'm very excited for that route. And then just have the continued success with what we're currently doing, what I'm currently doing and contributing to this bank. Personally, I am looking forward to a newborn that'll be here in June. And so, that'll be a new, interesting task to reprioritize everything. Do all this while still being a dad. So that's, that's something, life gives you all that you can really handle. Right. And it's just adjusting. And so I think the one takeaway I would say what I'm looking forward to is seeing, myself grow within the bank, but obviously outside the bank personally too, as well, at this stage of my life.
Amazing. Congratulations on the new baby.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
And we talked earlier, that's baby number 4 for you. So you caught up some. Amazing. Well, thanks so much for coming on. And if somebody who's listening would like to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you?
Very simply, I've got 2 contacts. My email is nathan.via@calbt.com, and hopefully we can post those contacts somehow online or through a correspondence on this episode. But then also there's my mobile phone, which is my cell phone, 714-862-7085. If I don't pick up right away, I will respond in the same day. That's how I roll here.
Very good. Well, thanks so much, Nathan, for coming on the show.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me, Danny.
Yes, absolutely. And to our audience, please go to ocpowerplayers.com and follow us on your favorite channel. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Orange County Power Players. Want to share your success story? Apply to be a guest at ocpowerplayers.com/guest.